Welcome to GoPowerCat.com's Friday Shoot-Around, sponsored by Riverbank Brewing. Now, let's head into the studio.
Welcome in here to the Friday Shoot-Around. As always, I am Ryan Gilbert, joined by former Kansas State guard Clint Stewart, who is coming off of the IR. Little surgery over the last couple of days. Clint, how are you feeling, first of all, man?
Feeling pretty well. So a lot better today than yesterday. So ready to go.
All right. A little late here on this Friday Shoot-Around coming up in the afternoon, but with the game not being until Sunday against Arizona State, you'll still have plenty of time this weekend to get this in. Back-to-back losses, Clint, for Kansas State. At BYU, you get kind of blown out, essentially. And then at Utah, you had a chance late. You got to look with Brendan Hazen, didn't connect. But let's start with maybe both of these losses. Was there one in particular that frustrated you more watching?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Utah one, and just because, going into the week, I thought that was the game that we had to have. I thought BYU would be a tough one in Provo, and they always play really well at home, and it's a really good atmosphere. And I thought if we got that one, it would kind of be a bonus. But the Utah one is the one where I just felt like, it was right there for us to take. I think we just wasn't physical enough, in the trenches. And we can blame the refs on the free throw shooting. I think they shot 30 free throws or something. But a lot of that came down to us not blocking out and securing offensive rebounds. So our first hand defense, I thought wasn't too bad. I think their best player, Matson, had a very bad game by his terms, and until he kind of hit a shot late. But I thought they were way more physical than us. And then those offensive rebounds led to second chance points and led to fouls and got them to the free throw line. And that was the difference in the game. So I'm just disappointed to see that it was right there for us to take, and we just couldn't close the deal. Yeah,
that first shot defense against Utah wasn't too bad. Second shot defense, man, the rim just gets a little wider, a little bigger when you get another look at it. Yeah,
for sure. And like I said, and then it leads to not only, offensive rebound and score, but also fouls and free throws and just some momentum as well, And so you have to finish plays, and it can't just be, relying upon, our big guys and Gasson and Hawkins to get rebounds, and our guards have to be physical and block out and get in there and mix it up as well. And so it doesn't matter the size, you got to have some heart and have some will and be physical in there. And it's things the guys can do. And so I'm sure Coach Tang is harping on that over, going into these next two games, because if you look back at it, BYU and in Utah, we gave up 35 offensive rebounds in those two games. And that's a lot. And so, it's something where I'm sure this week in practice, they've been working on that.
The rebounding numbers, is it frustrating, alarming, troublesome? For you, how do you just feel about a team getting just kind of bullied and dominated on the glass the way that it did?
Well, I think one thing is, you go back and you start just reevaluating everything. And I got some tweets from Coach Phil this weekend. He's showing me just how much stronger David Castillo's getting. And so the guys are putting in time in the weight room. So I know he's probably saying, hey, I'm getting you guys strong and ready and physical to do what you need to do on the court. Now you guys got to go do it, right? And so that's the most frustrating part. It's not a thing of, our tall guys are a little bit slender, but they're strong enough and can be physical enough to block out and go get the basketball. And so our guards can mix it up enough. And Max Jones is probably one of the stronger guards in the conference. CJ Jones is long and athletic. And Hosens, he's stout, he's strong, and so, our guards can be physical enough as well to help those big guys out. And, it's just the willingness to go do it, and do it every single play, and make sure that we finish the play every single time. So our defense stays strong and we can get the ball and go down and score it on the other end, because scoring the basketball, hasn't been a problem, and so I think we've scored it pretty well. Of course, BYU, probably could have scored a little bit better, but I think we're right there as far as in the conference. These last, 8 games or so, as far as scoring, has been really, really good for us. So just got to finish the plays on the defensive end, and that's what got away from us in these last 2.
Starters were playing a lot during that 6-game winning streak. Do you think out in the altitude, 2 games in 3 days, that K-State maybe just ran out of gas a little bit?
It could have been. We talked about the altitude being a little bit different when you get up in the mountains a little bit, and and then also just on the road, But I thought, as I look back at it, I thought Coleman, could have had more opportunity. I think he only took 5 shots against Utah. And although he's a great passer and does a lot of other things for us. We also need him looking to score the ball a little bit more than 5 times in a game as well. And so maybe some of that was just fatigue and then tired or, injury or whatever it might be. But I think those guys, they wouldn't tell you that, right? They say, hey, we just didn't play well. We got to get back to it and come back home against Arizona State and get the job done, and so that's the focus.
I'm glad you mentioned Coleman. Was wanting to get into that. It's undeniable that the fifth year is in a slump right now. What does he need to do to maybe snap out of it? I know he's probably not 100% right now, but Kansas State's desperately needing one of its best players to kind of step up. And you look at pretty much all of his, numbers, points, rebounds, steals, assists, his 3-point field goal percentage, all those are below his season average. How can he get back to where he once was during that winning streak?
Yeah, some of that's just confidence, and then the way to get your confidence back is go watch some of those games you played really well, right? And see, all right, how did I play well? What did I do on the basketball floor? And then watch your mannerisms, watch how you just approached every single possession, and kind of just get back to some of those basics, And so to gain that confidence, a lot of times once you see yourself doing those things, again, you're like, okay, yeah, this is what I need to do. And you start feeling good about yourself and you go out and you try to do that in the next game. So you really have to have a short-term memory as far as, the bad games you play, and then go back and watch those good ones and say, all right, this is what I got to do. And if he can do that, then hopefully he'll play well against Arizona State.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get back home on Sunday. And, Quinn, I think one of the things, was on that road trip was tough for this team to just have energy, to play with energy. And sometimes you have to go create your own energy. Like we've talked about here on the shoot around before, at BYU, it could have been very easy to feed off of that crowd. A lot of people were there, and then you go to Salt Lake up in Utah, and there was not a whole lot of people there. I think it was probably much tougher to create, energy in that game. But now you've got Bramlage Coliseum. Who knows if it'll be a sellout or not? But getting back to the house, as Jerome Tang said post game, is not gonna be a bad thing for this team.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, and 2 games. Obviously Arizona State at home. That a game that we should go win. And should feel good about going and winning, and hopefully our guys can be back home. Good night's rest in your own bed, a few nights, and have your normal routine as far as shoot around and things of that nature, and then pregame meal, which, that normal routine a lot of times can go a long way. And then obviously just playing in front of our home crowd and feeding off of their energy to start the game and against a team, in Arizona State that we've already beaten, although it was a really close game, one that you say, okay, we've got the job done. We just got to go do it again. So, we should feel good about it. We got to flush the past 2 and then move on to the next one. And this next one is the most important.
We'll get to that Arizona State game here in the second half, but you look at a team that played Monday night and then got back early Tuesday morning, had to fly back, and now you've got a long time off until Sunday, right? How beneficial can that be? Like we talked about earlier, for a team that's certainly tired and exhausted, as a coach, how do you see that, in players? And when you did play, how much did that rest just mean to you in the middle of Big 12 play?
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to have the rest, but it's also nice to, from a coaching standpoint, have some consecutive practices where you can really focus on yourself, right, and not so much on the opponent. And so I'm sure Coach Tang, did some self-reflecting of the team, kind of where they were at these last 2 games and where they have to get better. And I think Henry Walker mentioned this. One of the things that Coach Frank Martin used to do if we couldn't rebound the basketball is he'd put the bubble up on the rim, and where no shot is going in. So every shot's a miss. And, whoever can get that rebound is going to win the game or win the competition that we're playing. And so, I'd like to see maybe K-State did some of that this weekend of, hey, every shot's a miss, and we have to figure out a way to block out and secure the basketball. But it's nice. It's really nice to get a little bit of rest, but then also just focus on yourself, for a few days, and then you start preparing for the next opponent and really just kind of get better. That normally don't have this kind of time in the middle of the season, because it's always like, all right, the next game, the next opponent, what are they going to do? How can we defeat them? And so it's nice to be able to focus on yourself for a few days.
Anything else, Clint, before we go to break, with anything you had noted down from that trip from BYU and Utah?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think, the most aggressive team, a lot of times we can talk about, the free throws and foul calls, but a lot of times the most aggressive team is going to get the calls, and that's what I saw against BYU and Utah. They were the more aggressive team. than what we were. And so we just got to get back to being aggressive. I think, our stars got to play like stars, and the guys around them got to fill in their roles. And, hopefully we can do that moving forward, take what we learned from the trip out west and then move forward to play well these next two.
Arizona State coming up on Sunday. We will break down what to expect in that game. And Clinton, I think we should also maybe touch on the bubble and maybe how that's bursted just a little bit after that trip out to Utah. But first, a quick break right here on the Friday Shoot Around.
It's time to take a break for our sponsors. We'll be back with more from GoPowerCat.com.
Nestled in the heart of beautiful and historic Council Grove, Kansas, Riverbank Brewing is the perfect place to stop before or after the game. Riverbank Brewing, located in downtown Council Grove.
Now let's head back to the show for more K-State sports coverage from GoPowerCat.com.
Clint, first of all, man, are you a fan of the Sunday game? I mean, it's very unique. We don't see this a lot in college basketball, just in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's a little different, but it's basketball. So whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even on Sunday, a guy's got to be ready to play, ready to show up. But it does just throw off the schedule a little bit. You used to kind of plan on, the Wednesday, Saturdays. Every now and then you have a Monday or could have a Tuesday. It's kind of depending. And all of a sudden you're playing on a Sunday. It does throw it off a little bit. But hopefully, like I said, hopefully our fans can get there and community can show up and show out and really support the guys because they're going to need it.
You don't always get the best officials playing on a Saturday because there's just a finite number of refs. But when you're playing on a Sunday, you typically, Tang mentioned this in his press conference on Thursday, that you usually get a better crew. So that's one good thing just to look at with this game being on a Sunday. But, Kansas State, you play 5 teams twice. Kansas State was unable to sweep Oklahoma State, unable to sweep Kansas. Obviously have the chance here to do it for the first time in this season, to beat a team twice. How tough is it to get a team twice? Kansas State already got the tough one out of the way on the road, but still, it's not easy to beat a team twice.
Yeah, well, I think you just mentioned the one on the road is always the harder one, just because teams play better at home, right? And so for us to get the one on the road first, we should be fully confident coming back home and playing Arizona State at home that we can go and get the job done. But, at the same time, beating a team twice, or sometimes, if you play them in the Big 12 tournament 3 times, can be very tough, just because, even though you're familiar with them, they're familiar with you. And if you've already beat them once, they come in with a little bit more motivation that next time of what they got to try to do to win the basketball game. And if you beat them twice and you see them in the Big 12 tournament, you just pray and hope, like, hey, the one time they beat us better not be this third time in the Big 12 tournament. And so, you got to come out and be ready. Got to be ready to execute the things that we did well, against Arizona State at their place. We didn't start off really well. They started off really hot against us, and so we have to jump out early here at home. And then we got to be prepared for, they shot a lot of threes, that first game. They ended up shooting 37, and they made 33% or 32% of those. So expect them to shoot a lot of threes. They score the ball at a high clip. They also give up a lot as well. So our offense has to be well, and hopefully our defense can tighten down and really hold them underneath their average.
37 3-pointers from Arizona State in that game, like you said. Do you think K-State, the coaches, was that an emphasis to force them into those tough outside looks, or was Arizona State just kind of chucking them up? How do you think that the defensive game plan will be in this game?
Well, I thought Arizona State was just careless, and so I think it played right into our hands, right? I mean, they got up, 15, 17, and then they kept just jacking threes, and even though they weren't going in. But they do have 3 guys that shoot it at about 40%. And so, that's part of their game plan, right, is to let those guys shoot the basketball. And so we just got to be prepared for it, know that they're going to make some, tough ones, but what we can't do is we can't give up easy open ones, consecutively, and so we have to make sure that we're just locked in, contest them, and then we have to finish with the rebound. A lot of times long shots equal long rebounds. So our guards really have to make sure that we contest the shot and we don't just try to run out. We don't, turn and watch. We contest, we turn, we block out, and then we go and secure the basketball.
For a team that's lost 6 in a row, obviously Arizona State, you would assume that that's a team that's down in the dumps, but what are the challenges maybe of a team that's on a losing streak? Certainly looking at a team that has nothing to lose, because I know Kansas State's NCAA tournament chances are very slim. Arizona State's not even near that bubble. So, you're playing up against a team that's maybe got nothing to lose in this game.
Yeah, and that's we have to prepare that's how Arizona State's going to play, right? They're kind of be carefree, just go out there and then be relaxed and play and have fun. And so, we have to try to jump on them early, as I mentioned, and really just from the very beginning, let them know that they have no shot of winning this game, and I think if we can do that early, then, we might see them kind of revert back to just kind of jacking up some bad shots and things of that nature. But if we give them confidence early and we let them hang around and let them make some shots and then quiet our crowd, then we're going to be in a dogfight, because as you mentioned, they don't have anything to lose. So it's just go out there and play free, and so it's really up to us. I think hopefully this week we've had a lot of time to, reflect on what we got to do better and really just focusing on ourselves and can we go out there and be 1-0 against Arizona State. And, that doesn't change as far as the mindset. We can't look down the road and say, hey, did we just wreck or ruin our chances of making an NCAA tournament over these last two losses? All we can control is the next game, and we have to win the next one, and then we'll move on to UCF and down the road. We still have some tough games, and we still have Iowa State at home, and obviously the Big 12 tournament. And so there's still a lot of games left that can be won, but we're going to have to make sure that we're locked in on each and every one.
You talk about the slow start against Arizona State and needing to throw the first punch, starting strong in this game. I know a lot of Kansas State's slow starts this season, rather, were on the road. Is it as simple as a team playing on the road? I know we've talked about this on the shoot-around before this year, but, out in Utah, the whole game was kind of bad against BYU. It wasn't just a slow start, whereas, against Utah, K-State had a fine start before letting it slip away. So, is it just as simple as playing at home? You're less likely to have a slow start?
Well, I think you still just got to make sure that you're ready to go. I mean, it all comes down to executing the game plan. It comes down to, guys being locked in from the very beginning. And you got to play well, and not every game you play well. I mean, that's if every game you played well, you'd win every single game, right? I mean, so, I think the guys being at home, like I said, the routine will be, what they're used to, which will be really nice, which hopefully can bode us well as the start of the game goes. And then we just got to feed off of the crowd's energy, and so, like I said, hopefully the crowd shows up and they're able to feed off of that from the very beginning. And if we can do that and jump on them early, I mean, we should be sitting pretty for the rest of the game, and so, but, like I said, can we flush the last two games and realize that this is a new game, it's a new day, and an opportunity for us to go do things the way we know how to do them and really lock in on the game plan and execute the game plan. I think over the past two games, I mentioned, we've scored the ball decently. Obviously, BYU could have scored it better, but, watching, we had several defensive breakdowns, we kind of reverted back to some of the early games in the season where our communication just wasn't right and some switching stuff, guys weren't on the same page. And so we just got to be locked in to execute the game plan that Coach Tang and his staff put forth for us to win.
Is it too simple? Is the offense, is everything? I know that during that winning streak they were able to dumb things down a little bit. Did they do that a little bit too much? Too extreme on simplifying stuff? No,
I mean, I think we just got to have our guys play well. I mean, Coleman Hawkins has to play better than what he's been playing the last few games. Doug's played pretty well, and then we just got to get some other guys step up. I think what we see is, if we have one of those guys not play well, when I talk about one being Doug or Coleman, it just makes things a little bit tough for us, right? I mean, Gason's kind of steady. He's going to give you what he's going to give you. You kind of can rely on, what he's going to do on the basketball floor. And so we need, Doug and Coleman to both, play phenomenal. And it could be a lot on their shoulders, but for us to win, we need both of those guys locked in and playing really well. So if Coleman can come out and have a game, like he's capable of having, and obviously Doug continue to do things that he's been doing, then I think we'll be fine.
Bigger picture, we'll talk about the NCAA tournament here for a couple minutes to wrap up, Clint. Is this team, the last couple of games, I would assume you're going to say it's not playing like an NCAA tournament team, let alone the resume and where we are, where Kansas State has gotten to this point. When Kansas State was 11-11, right? They were at 500. They still had a lot more time to make up, but now you're at 13-13. The time to make up ground is just shrinking by by the game. Every time you lose, your wiggle room just evaporates.
Yeah, and I think we came in last week on Joe Lenardi's last 4 out or something, and and obviously losing both of those games definitely hurts, but the only thing we can control though is the next game, and like it or not, even if we would have won these last two, it still doesn't say that, hey, we're definitely in the tournament, right? And so, I think what it's going to come down to is, can we control what we can control? Can we win the winnable games from here on moving forward? And then we're going to have to go win in the Big 12 tournament, and that might have still been the case even if we would have won these last two games. Still got to win one or two in the Big 12 tournament just because of some of the early losses that we had. So, it's still in front of us, but it's not an easy road, and a lot of times you got to take the road less traveled to get to where you want to go. And hopefully our guys can lock in on that road less traveled and make things happen here down the stretch.
I was watching a Bill Self press conference here before we were recording, and he was talking about just in football, man, if you're not in that playoff and you don't put yourself in a position, you're toast. But here for Kansas State, it's an unlikely path to get into the NCAA tournament, but there still is a real true path, for this team to get there. Clint, Jerome Tang mentioned on Thursday, you remember last year, Clint, Tang was outspoken about, I think he said 9 wins. Any Big 12 team that wins 9 games deserves to get in to the NCAA tournament. This year, you haven't heard that. Is that part of, in your opinion, Jerome Tang's just kind of evolution as a head coach, knowing kind of what to say and what to not say publicly, and to his team behind closed doors as well?
Yeah, I mean, and it really differs. I think back to my junior year when Coach Huggins came in, and we went 10-6 in the Big 12, and we finished 4th. We won 20 games, and they said, hey, any team that finishes 4th in the Big 12 and wins 20 games has always made the tournament, right? And you look at it, and we even beat Texas Tech. Texas Tech finished 5th in the Big 12. We played them head-to-head in the Big 12 tournament, and we beat them, and they still got in the tournament, and we didn't. And so now they had Bobby Knight as their head coach, and so maybe there was some pull there to get Bobby Knight back in. But I think, it's really the full resume, and so I don't really think there's a true number, as far as you have to have 9 wins, 10 wins. It's kind of the full resume. And I think the committee looks at, the entire season and how many quad 1 wins do you have, and then how did you do, in some of the tournaments that you played in, and then how are you doing down the stretch? Are you playing like a tournament team down the stretch that gives you the leg up of getting in over a different team that might be kind of stumbling down the stretch. So, I think that's what we got to focus in on, is we just got to play well down the stretch, got to win these winnable games. And then, like I said, go win in the Big 12 tournament, and then let the chips fall where they fall. And hopefully if we win enough games there, we'll be in.
Clint, we'll keep this one rather short. I know you're a warrior fighting through after your surgery, but UCF is coming up after Arizona State on the road. What's it going to take for this team to win away from home after back-to-back losses on the road?
Yeah, and UCF is, like I said, very similar to Arizona State. I mean, they've lost 7 straight in the Big 12. They have the worst defense in the Big 12. They give up 80 points per game, but they also score about 79. So they really can score it. So we got to be ready for a high-scoring game. They have the number 1 leading offensive player or scorer in the Big 12 in Keyshawn Hall. But one of the things that we've done pretty well is the top players in the Big 12. We've done a pretty good job on making it tough on them. You think about Madsen from Utah is one of the better scorers, and he had a rough game against us. Think about Caleb Love from Arizona. He didn't play very well against us. Javon Small from West Virginia, had a decent game, but nothing outstanding against us. And so we got to make sure that we don't let Keyshawn Hall, get going. He averages 19. If we can keep him under his average, and then we can score the basketball as well, I think we'll be boding pretty well on the road at UCF. But our guys have to come out with a lot more energy than what we did the last 2 games. And like I said, really that big emphasis on one and done, one shot, block out and get the rebound, and make sure that we don't let UCF get going early or let Keyshawn Hall get going early and we're trying to dig out of a hole on the road. So
good stuff, Clint. Appreciate you as always. We'll be back here in 7 days. Thanks so much for joining us. I know you're little bit what's the right word for you right now?
Mouth's a little sore, but I'm making it through.
We appreciate you hopping on. We'll talk to you next week after Kansas State plays Arizona State at home and then travels to UCF.
Thank you for watching the Friday Shoot-Around, sponsored by Riverbank Brewing. This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production.